Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for continuing to support my channel by watching my videos. And I will be exploring the wide world of pens from 2020. This is not going to be a top 10 list. It's just going to be a list of pens that I think is interesting to revisit. And I'm going to use as a basis of that videos that I did in 2020 that I published on YouTube. YouTube gives you great analytical tools to slice and dice and look at your videos and how people watch them and how many people watch them, how long people watch them. So I first want to start with a chronological review of 2020. And you see in front of you the first pen I reviewed in 2020. It was published in January 1st. And it was a Pen BBS Model 491. And I ended up having 4 of them eventually. 2 of them are inked up. The Winter's Night here is eyedroppered. And the vermouth I used the converter. And then I also got a clear one because I like having every model in clear. And then dark paint. These 3 have medium nibs in them. This one I replaced the nib and put in something interesting. So this model is no longer on the Etsy site for sale. So I'm not certain exactly what that means. Is it out of production? But there is a fair number of them on eBay. Here's some examples of those. And there are a number of colors available. They're priced above the 480 and the 308 and some 309s, and I think that limited appeal to the pen, but I think it's a great pen. The 2 I've inked up I use relatively regularly, but we need to just put some nib to paper and see why I like them. I figured I'd add some sunlight to the light mix. As we know, light will change how you might view a pen or its color. I really like the way those finials are just a big lump of acrylic. And I think it really shows off that acrylic and how it works in the pen. One of the reasons why I love Pen BBS pens is they are certainly visually very appealing to me. So before we put nib to paper, let's take a look at that nib. And the cap comes off with a very small amount of turns. I don't think I ever reviewed this pen with this nib in it. If I have and you've seen it, let me know, because I couldn't find it. So this is a Bobby nib that he sold, and I bought more than a few. And some of them will be sent to Palmer Pens for grinding. I've written with one of these nibs ground by Joshua Lax, and I fell in love with it. So let's see what Arlo can do with the nib. Bobby is still selling these on his, and Doug has tried one. So let's put it on paper. You can see that it puts down a nice line. I mean, these nibs were sold for grinding. I did a little bit of work on that nib to get rid of a little bit of baby's bottom and to give it more of a writing surface. And I think it writes fairly well. I would call it a B, triple broad. That's where 1.5 fits in. Now, the Winter's Night has that medium nib, which I love from Pen BBS. I mean, I don't dislike any of the nibs. I know some of them, the fine nibs, the kind of Waverly Mini Fude nibs can be a little bit dry, but they're easy to fix. Doug and I have both done that. But this medium nib to me is excellent. I mean, it is super smooth. It lays down an excellent line. And it's on the wet side, as we can see. So not too many people talk about the medium nib, but I like it. And whenever it's available on a pen that I'm buying, I buy it. I have the 456 dopamine nib coming in medium. The other question you might ask is, what review got the most amount of views? Much to my surprise, it was the original Moonman T1 that I reviewed. Here's a list of my top videos by number of views. This one's almost 3 times as much as the next video for 2020. I got 2 colors because I really think it's an excellent design. Moonman did a great job in designing it, engineering it. It works well. I liked it, the fact that this little piece inside that works the piston is the same color as the rest of the pen. The clear barrel. It's really crystal clear. They fill very easily. Much to my surprise, the brass one did not get as many views as one might think, considering how popular this original T1 was. The cap takes a little bit over 2.5 turns to take off, but we'll see. To me, I consider this to be the standard Moonman number 6 nib. There's an F and a circle there for fine. But if you look at that tipping material, it's certainly a generous fine. I'd say it's much more like a medium. And I enjoy how they write. I've seen people post that they don't like these nibs, but I have no idea how you could not like them. I must have at least 20 of them. I bought extra ones, and I've not had a dud in the whole group. It's interesting how so many people can come to different conclusions from apparently the same source of information. So this is a very smooth nib, a very wet nib. It feels great on the paper. I'm going to give you links to all the original reviews, so I'm not going to remember all the inks that are in these, and if you're interested to that level of detail, I encourage you to look at the original review. The second most watched Pen BBS model video was this one, the Pen BBS 500, which has that very interesting spring-loaded piston filling mechanism, which has a unique activating system with this little end cap that you unscrew, bring up the piston rod, attach it to the piston, and then do your work. And these are also 5 excellent colors that I love. We'll list the colors next to it along with the number of the color. I did make some recent purchases, and this is a color South Shore, I think, that I only have in this pen. Of course, Niango, say no more. Maybe one day I'll do a video on all my Niango pens and all my Amber pens and all my 2C pens, but it's for another day. But these pens, I think, are underrated. They feel great in the hand. They have good weight to them. And they're just made well, feel well in the hand. Cap comes off with that traditional 1 3/4 turns, and you'll see something they only did with this model where they put Shanghai made in China in this ring between the section and the barrel. I think it's great where they do something a little bit different with each of their pens. Just makes it more interesting for me, the collector. I would be remiss if I didn't do the more crab-worthy. The only pen I've rated at a 10 is the Pen BBS 492 Year of the Rat pen, which was my most viewed video of the Pen BBS pen. It still had less than a third of the Moonman T1 videos, but I still love the pen. I love writing with it. And I also love the model that it evolved into, which we're going to take a quick look at next just for the sake of looking at it. But let's just watch the crab come around, have him give us a wink before we go on. Originally, I was not going to get a 487, which is the upgraded model, if you want to call it that, to the 492. It came in beautiful colors. You know, I love Winter's Night, which we saw in the 491. Hotoro, this kind of like fluorescent yellow. And who could pass up Autumn? And Autumn is inked and has been inked since I got it. The other thing that I like is I can move these pistons fairly easily in these two pens, which have not been inked and not been anything done to them. So I think they did a good job in having that piston work better in this model than it did in the 492, but I can still move it into 492 if I have to, and it's easy to remove the plug at the end, you know, and then you can push the piston up or down. You can as usual, Pen BBS design, engineering, you can easily take them apart, clean them, lubricate them, whatever you want. So we're just going to let these twirl around again, because I think it's great eye candy. And I love, again, what pen can maker would make pens of these three incredible colors. My most second watched video of 2020 was the Moonman M800 in amber. It was the first M800 I reviewed, and I did like the pen, and I still like the pen. And it is a nice amber resin. It is definitely turntable worthy, if ever a pen was. We're going to just zoom in a little bit and see how the light plays on that incredible resin. Because that's one of the nice things about Moonman. They do great resins also. And maybe sometimes get resins from the same resin maker that Pen BBS might get resins from. Yes, this is reminiscent of an Italian design pen, but those of you that watch my video, I review the pen for what it is, and I'm not that concerned about how the designers of the pen might have been motivated to come up with the design. It's a question of whether it writes well and I like it. That's what matters to me. So Mr. Crab is going to give you a wink and we'll move on. Moonmans are well represented in my top videos of 2020. So it'd be remiss if I didn't show the purple one, which got fewer reviews in the amber, but not significantly a lot. Here's a list of all the Moonman pens I reviewed in 2020, just so you can put them in perspective. And these are two beautiful resins which really do well in this design. Look nice, they write nice, they feel good in the hand. It's a pleasure to use these pens to write with. So what were some surprises in 2020? These are pens which were 4th and 5th of the most viewed videos that I did in 2020. The Jinhao Centennial, I expected to get a lot of views. Most of my Jinhao pen reviews, a lot of people like or watch. A well-known Chinese pen brand, people are interested in them, so that makes sense. But the Trommel took me by surprise because it got a fair amount of views, almost 6,000, which for me is above average. My average is probably a little bit under 2,000 views per video, but as long as I get one, I'm happy. And these pens both are very different. I mean, couldn't be more different. I like the frosted. I thought the Trommel did a good job, and yeah, Some pens do that. I like the black trim. The Jinhao is more traditional. You know, they use that old style vintage clip that Parker used in the 30s, 20s, late 20s and 30s. But they use a wide cap band like Parker Duofolds used in their latter generation, you know, in the 2000s. So you never know when you'd make a video how popular it's going to be or how few people watch it. One of the things to keep of interest is the highest ranked vintage video was the Schaefer Targa, where I did a bunch of Schaefer pens that I bought on eBay, and I wouldn't consider any of them real vintage, but they were in the 90s, and that was number 24 out of the 120 some videos I did in 2020. So I do vintage because I enjoy them. I know there's a lot of viewers who really like them, but they never catch a lot of views. But if we look at my lifetime viewership, the #1 viewed video is the one on restoring vintage pens. So what can you say? Of course, the #2 one is Rotring. I try to pronounce it correctly, but I'm bad. Which also I think is an interesting perspective on what people like. And the vintage pen continues to still get a decent amount of views every day, so it continues to increase the total views that it has. So Mr. Crab is going to just say bye, and we'll move on. Another well-viewed video was the Pen BBS 355 improved model. Here we have it in a wonderful Misty Mountains resin. I like the pen. This pen has been inked up since I got it. It writes wonderfully. But gee, what other 355s might I have? Yes, I have the two official cats, Nyango and Amber, in a 355. And yes, they are spectacular, and yes, they look great, and yes, they are wonderful eye candy as they go in and out of different types of light. Got a little bit of sunlight coming in there in the corner. So I do go on a buying frenzy. I do buy a lot, but I think I've also reached somewhat of a limit in saturation, even though I have 3 more 456s on their way to me if they ever leave China. The crab is going to say bye. So we're going to finish up with these two pens. We have here the 456 Fan limited edition pen, which I really love on many levels. And then we have this Jinhao Golden 601. This didn't get as many views as I expected it to. It's in the bottom half of my Pen BBS videos. Here's a list of all those Pen BBS videos, sorted by number of views. The Jinhao got slightly less, about 200 and some less. Not significant, but neither of those were runaways. And the Jinhao, I kind of expected a little bit more from that, considering that some of my other Jinhaos have been quite popular and viewed a lot. So we're going to end up with just some writing from these two pens so I can explain why they're here at the end of the video. And maybe you're going to watch the original video and up their views. Here's the ink I have in the Jinhao Golden 601. Interesting color and nice shimmer. Doesn't show up as much here in that sample card as it does when you write on paper. This is a pull-off cap. It's a very textured section, and the section's on the small side. That's a small number 5 Jinhao nib, which they have in a lot of pens. But somehow it becomes magical with that Pen BBS ink in this pen. And even though I'm not a fan of glitzy gold pens, this pen has grown on me. It's found itself getting involved in many letters that I've written Let's see how that we can pick up the shimmer in the ink. So the Pen BBS glitter inks have a certain angle in which the glitter just pops. Hopefully I'm finding it. It's hard to see in the monitor, but there we go. Great for holiday letters. I think this ink was a perfect match for the 456. I mean, you be the judge, but I think it's excellent. And it works well, as we will see shortly. So, those of you that have followed my channel know that the 456 I called one of the best designs for a Pen BBS pen. The vac filling system works fine. It's not perfect. I always keep that blind cap open. There's no reason to shut it. The pen just sits on my desk, and it always sits nib up, so therefore leakage is not an issue or a problem. But I've never had that on any Pen BBS pen, including the 469s. That section is just as small as I like, but you can hold it anywhere. You can move your fingers around. This has that standard fine nib that has that special engraving of the Phoenix on it. Pen BBS just does such a great job with each model, making it unique and giving us collectors more and more reasons to buy them. Yeah, I had a little hard start at the beginning because nib wasn't on paper, but as you can see, this writes great. I didn't do anything to this nib, no tuning, no spreading the tines to increase the flow. It just wrote great first time, every time. And this has also found its way into many letters. So that's the end of this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I try to do something a little different. In top 10 lists or anything else like that is very hard for me because it changes every day. So depending upon what day I would make the list up, that's what you'd get. But I thought a retrospect on 2020 would be nice. Picked up some pens that I think you might have enjoyed revisiting, or if you'd missed the original one, maybe you might go back and watch the original video. So I want to say thank you very much for watching. As I try to write over the camera. I always enjoy doing these videos and sharing them and reading those comments if that's what you want to do. Hope all of you stay safe, healthy, and happy, and you find some pens to enjoy writing with. We've reached the end of this video. There may be more in 2020, but there will certainly be more in 2021. So we're going to say bye. Keep writing. And that's a nice wet writer.